Great to have you here. Bitcoin is currently trading at $118,100. In this video, we will take a look together at possible scenarios for the price development of Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and Solana. Things remain exciting, so make sure to watch until the end. So, yesterday we didn't do an update because Bitcoin didn't do much. Also, the altcoins didn't do much. I didn't see any kind of important breakout where I would say this is worth to trade. But anyway, here we are. So yesterday we have formed a small double bottom pattern, which also broke to the upside. If I take the length, so the target of it, and put it to the breakout point, then I can say, okay, we still have a bit more upside potential. But this upside potential from the current price would be 0.5%. And since it's weekend, it's going to move a bit slower. And on the weekend, it is most likely a bit more difficult to predict the price movement because we have chart patterns, but we are missing the volume. So the market makers can do whatever they want. They can liquidate people, whatever. Anyway, what I can imagine is that the target of 118,780, so the target of the double bottom pattern, can be overshot into the upper part of the resistance, so 119,685 US dollar. We have several touch points here. So here it was resistance, here it was support, here it was resistance, and here it was resistance. So basically I can expect this trend line to be resistance again. So we can still go up, get rejected here, and then we have to see in what kind of price movement we go up, because so far it looks more like in rising wedge, like this for example, which can still break to the downside, and then I want to see a higher low, and afterwards we might have the strength to get this kind of price movement. What I think is kind of positive, we have said if the $116,000 breaks to the downside, then it would be negative. We broke it to the downside on the 1 hour chart, but this is on the weekly or even monthly time frame, this trend line. So basically, if we go into the 1 hour, in the 1 day, in the daily chart, then you can see that our candle close wasn't lower than that. And also we have said last week that we need a break out lower than $110,780 currently, but we can also round it up to 112,000. So this cross right here. Then a bigger chart pattern is going to get activated, which is a bearish one. So this bigger rising wedge. And if this is going to happen, then the target is going to be the 82,000 US dollar for Bitcoin. So basically, since we don't see any kind of breakdown, everything looks good to me. We still are in a bearish chart pattern, and yes, we can still do new all-time highs while being in the bearish chart pattern. So don't get me wrong, just because we are in the bearish chart pattern doesn't mean that we are bearish at all. So Bitcoin didn't do much. I can still expect a bit more upside potential, afterwards a pullback, and then I want to see the strength breaking the white trend line to the upside, which I will make green right now, because this is the trend line where I would say once we break it to the upside, I expect new all-time highs for Bitcoin, and this price movement would be worth trading in my opinion. Not the one from the double bottom pattern. Yeah, it could have worked for sure, and we would have made 1.15%. But this is not the kind of chart pattern which I want to trade, because we can also invalidate that pretty easy. But if we take this price movement, then we can say maybe even up to 5% is possible. That's what I want to trade. So let's jump into the next coin, Ethereum. And Ethereum is a bit more tricky. Why that? Because currently we have an head and shoulders formatation. And I will tell you what I like and what I don't like. What I don't like is that the left shoulder was a bull flag. So this bull flag caused a push to the upside, forming the top of the head. So we have here the left shoulder building a bullish pattern, breaks to the upside, getting to the head area. Afterwards, we get down while being in another bullish chart pattern. broke it also to the upside. So we have formed so far the left shoulder and the head completely. And now what we get is a right shoulder within a bearish chart pattern. So this price movement here looks to me like a rising wedge. That's what I don't like, because usually the perfect setup for a bearish head and shoulders formatation is right this. The left shoulder is a bullish chart pattern getting to the top of the head. The head is forming another bullish pattern, which isn't that bullish. Yeah, we still get a price increasement, but the price increasement of the right shoulder is just going to be a bearish chart pattern, which afterwards breaks to the downside with a higher chance. And if we look into it, then let me take out this, and this. And if we take the target of the rising wedge and we put it then to the breakout point, then you can see the target is going to be the 3,460 US dollar, which would be also the breakout of the head and shoulders formatation. So what I do is I have that head and shoulders formatation, and I always take the least bearish target, which is the left shoulder. Put it to the breakout point afterwards if we break it to the downside. So the key level here is the 3,517 US dollar. If they break to the downside, then the pattern is going to get activated. We can also get into our most bearish setup, and the target is going to be the 3,150 US dollar. But so far, I don't want to have this on the chart because it's just going to irritate and make me a bit more greedy. So I will just keep it like that first, and then in the future, like maybe tomorrow, maybe not because tomorrow is Sunday, but in the next week we are going to see the price movement. If it's very bearish and if we have sharp sell-off, then we can get into our more bearish scenario. Anyway, what I kind of like is that the rising wedge in bright blue, this one right here, doesn't look 100% like a rising wedge. It can also be an ascending triangle, and the ascending triangle would be a bullish pattern. So far, we don't know it yet. If the upper part would be something like this, then it would be clear to me this is a bearish chart pattern. But since we have some kind of an ascending triangle, it might be even possible that we are just going to form an higher low, get rejected, higher low, get rejected, higher low, and then the breakout to the upside. That would be even bullish. And what I do usually then is we have the spread of it, and instead of putting that to the downside, we put that to the upside. And if that is going to happen, then 4,055 US dollars is going to be the target, but you can already see it. This would also be the breakout of the green trend line, 3,980 US dollar. So whoever don't know what this kind of key level is, we have to go into the 8-hour chart, and then you can see that we got rejected here once, here 2 times, and here also 1 time perfectly, and afterwards 4,090 US dollar, where we also got rejected here and rejected twice right here. So if that ascending triangle is going to play off, we can expect a price movement of Ethereum up to 4,400 US dollar, even into 4,586 US dollar, where the target of the bull flag is going to be. So for Ethereum, it means stay patient. We have to look and see what kind of price movement is going, are we going to get. My stop loss for Ethereum would be lower than the head and shoulders formatation, the possible head and shoulders formatation. So if that breaks to the downside, then it's clear to me that we should drop even far more, and then I want to be out of the trade. If I want to go into a long trade, then I'm not going to wait until the chart pattern is going to break to the upside. I would look for the tops right here. So this one here. If this breaks to the upside, then I would even say that the bearish scenario first got invalidated, so the 3,822 US dollar. But also keep in mind, this can also be a double top pattern if we get rejected there. But I doubt that we are going to get rejected there. I think once we push, you can also see it here, fair value gap, should happen something like this, and then the price should go to the moon, and the moon is 4,400 US dollar to 4,586 US dollar for Ethereum. So with that said, we can go into the next coin, XRP. So for XRP, I don't see any kind of chart pattern at the moment, which isn't a big problem. So we were looking for some kind of price movement like this, where we still push to the upside. Didn't happen, not a big deal. We didn't want to trade this price movement as well. And afterwards getting a higher low to this one. And yes, in this drawing, okay, the higher low is a bit higher, but this right here counts as a higher low. This low is higher than this one. So if we break this low, where I've also put you here in white, the highlighting, if that breaks to the downside, then we are more bearish. Then we can say, okay, we broke our structure to the downside, and we can expect lower prices because the higher low structure is going to get invalidated. So far, it's still active. So what am I going to do? So we have one trend line here, one resistance trend line at $3.36. If we break it to the upside, XRP would be long for me. And then we have here a white trend line on the chart. If that breaks to the upside, then I can think about getting into a smaller long position. Yeah, always keep in mind risk management. So if that trend line breaks to the upside, it doesn't mean that we are going to get a new top for XRP. It can also be that we break it to the upside, get rejected at $3.36 and still sell off. But the chances are very high that once we break that white trend line to the upside, that we should also break the $3.36 to the upside, because we have here a fair value gap, which should be closed. Afterwards, I want to see the retest of the $3.36 again. Then it's long to me. And then I want to see the $3.65 to the upside, breaking to the upside. Then I would increase my position size for XRP as well. And the overall target, we have to measure it new, because we got invalidated our bullish pennant, which was this one right here. We invalidated by breaking it to the downside and not to the upside. But what I can imagine is that we are forming an inverted head and shoulders formatation, which we afterwards break to the upside right here. And then we can be happy about higher prices for XRP, and then we can measure the price target. So with that said, let's move on to Solana. So Solana also has a similar setup to Ethereum, head and shoulders formatation. What I like for Solana, which I don't like for Ethereum, is that Solana has some kind of a falling wedge which broke to the upside, and we also got over the resistance at 185 US dollar. The target of that bright blue falling wedge is going to be the $202. And in my opinion, once we get to 202 US dollar, then the head and shoulders formatation should get invalidated. And then the bearish pattern is out of the chart. So basically, Solana still looks long to me with a high risk to reward ratio, with much potential. So we are also long for Solana. We have also said it's long at 185 US dollar. If we break it to the downside, no problem. Our stop loss is going to be here, lower than the lows which we have right here. So if I see the 194 US dollar breaking to the upside, which is this white trend line, then I'm also going to increase my position size. I want to take profits to scale down my position size once we are in the area $202 to $205. Afterwards, I want to see what is going to happen. Maybe we are going to sell off, then my position is going to be at break even closed. Or if we get some kind of this, then get rejected, then I have two scenarios. First one is we break it to the upside, then I can increase my position size again once we break the green trend line to the upside. Second scenario is that we break to the downside and I would be out break even for my other position size. But at least I took some profits above here and can play a bit with my profits. So this is my current plan for Solana. If the $185 breaks to the downside, then it would be negative. But the key level where I would say if that breaks to the downside, then we are most likely bearish for the next week. This would be the $176.50. So with that said, everything looks good. Solana also broke a bigger chart pattern to the upside, which can be this inverted head and shoulders formatation, which I don't like, to be honest. We can also say that this here is an ascending triangle, which broke to the upside. So whatever we say, everything looks bullish to me. Also this rectangle. All the targets are heading to 243 US dollar up to 255 US dollar for Solana. So I don't have to have every chart pattern on the chart. They are all directing into the same direction with this breakout. So I think Solana looks also good. We have also said, since we have fair value gaps right here and probably stop losses right here, we are going to fish them before we break again to the upside and can expect higher prices. And this also looks like that we are going to break it to the upside a third time with a retest. So here was a breakout with the retest. Here was again a breakout with the retest. And here again, breakout, retest. Looks good to me. We are trying. We have buying pressure. And I expect higher prices for Solana as long as we don't break the $176.50 to the downside. So this was my game plan for Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP and Solana. I hope that I have helped you out with this video, and in the next video we are going to talk about Sui, Avalanche, HBAR and Dogecoin.